I've been thinking, how are balloons not banned yet? Like, why are we going on about straws and things, but nobody's talking about balloons? Like, at least talk about balloons. I haven't even heard it brought up. Fuck balloons, you know? This is episode 10 of the podcast. Episode 9 just got uploaded a couple hours ago, so check that out if you haven't, or if you just got one notification and you think this is it. Episode 9's up and new. And here's episode 10 coming to you. Dealing with life.
I used to think if I couldn't find hope, I should just let it all go. I used to think if I couldn't make dreams come true, I should just let them all go. When life seems impossible, look from a new angle, change just one little thing. When life feels intolerable, find your true source of love. Concentrate, focus on love. Center now, focus on love. Dedicate, focus on
Ho, ho, Happy New Year. I hope all you delinquents out there had a good holiday. It's going to be kind of weird because you're getting something new from me, or you've gotten something new already. But for me, that's not new because it was recorded on December 11th, even though it's now January 8th? 7th? It's January something for sure. The 8th, I believe. So, it's been a month since I've recorded a podcast. I apologize about that. It's been a time. A strange time. A good time. Sort of a bad feeling time. The holiday season is a stressful one. And I've gotten away from the routine that I had. Which is not necessarily a bad thing. Just something to tweak and work with. Obviously, I had a really good routine in October. November was okay. It was still pretty good. But starting to fall apart. December, I felt it sort of fell apart, but probably has something to do with the whole seasons and everything, and just a lot going on. Mentioned I haven't been feeling it. Just been exhausted, be down a bit. But it's weird because everything is going well, like really well. There's things going on in my life that I'm super excited about, and that makes me really happy. And I think maybe that's part of the problem, because then I sit down at the end of the day and I'm still feeling off or down. And that's the toughest thing to realize about depression. Over the past couple of years, really most of the time, I've always had something to attribute those feelings to. And with that, maybe lead myself to believe that, sure, I'm going through this now and I'm feeling this way now, but as soon as this and this get fixed or get better, then that feeling will cease or lessen, at least. And then here I am, feeling really good about a lot of things and bad about very little, but I'm still heavy. And it's a painful reminder and realization that I may be a bit broken. But being cognizant of it, talking about it, just being aware of what I'm feeling and that there's reason for it. Even if I don't know what that reason is, but there's something in me that's making me feel that way. It does make it easier. Obviously it's hard and hurts, but it's not so deep. And I'm not piling on with worse feelings because everything's, it's been good. But yeah, what a time it's been lately. I am insanely excited for how this year is going to go. It's been a ridiculous 12 months and it ramped up right until the end. And I have no idea what's coming next. It could all fall apart, but it could also pave the way for the next phase of my life. A serious shift in the way I've been living to the way I'll be living. 2020 should be plenty of fun. Or fucking, yeah, it'll be plenty of something. World news has been crazy to start the year. Probably touch on that later. But I want to thank all of the listeners that have reached out during this quiet period of mine. It's been really nice to know that people listen regularly and are interested in new episodes. So cheers for the support. I appreciate it. I hope all y'all's Christmas treated you exactly how you wanted. Whether that's with 50 people around you or one, 208 Christmas presents under the tree, or no tree and no presents at all. I hope you don't get caught up in the stress of the season and the feeling of social expectation of what Christmas should be, and we're able to just do whatever the hell you wanted, because that's what it's about, you know? I think I realized something this year. I've touched on how sort of maybe emotional I get during the period, both positive and negative, how cathartic it is, and I might have found out why. There's something that was heavy on my mind over the middle of December, and it's really not something I think about often, like consciously, and hadn't really thought about in much detail in quite some time. That's probably because it's like a repressed memory of sort, or something I've tried to just bury in me somewhere. But I want to tell that story now to hopefully get over it or something. Just be able to put it out there. Yeah. It was December 11th, 2012. I was working as a cleaner at a piano store. And everything was normal to start the day. Got up, went to work. My general duties would be to go to work, piano to piano, floor to floor, cleaning, polishing, making sure everything looked good, dust, sweep, mop, general cleaning duties. But then that day was different. I was told when I got in that there was a piano that had been brought in earlier that morning that needed a lot of work, and that my whole day would be dedicated to it, which wasn't something that I had done before. And it turns out it was in a church that had caught on fire, so it's covered in ash and soot and needed to be cleaned out as soon as possible, which was kind of cool. Different day than normal, and it meant I'd get an extra day of work that week. I was only doing like 1 day a week, so I was going to be able to come back in the next day to do like my regular cleaning duties, and money's good to have, so an extra day of work was nice. So yeah, I sit down at this piano and just start going to town. Went through so many freaking rags working on this thing. Had to take it apart and get all up in it. It was a big job. So that was my work day. Got it done. On my way home, I was on the SkyTrain and my nose was a little runny, being December and cold and all that. So I wiped it, and there was visible soot, which made me go, wow, yeah, I guess I was just inhaling that stuff all day. Kind of crazy, whatever. And I got home. My mom had her famous tuna casserole made, which was, we didn't eat many things growing up. Fast food, breakfast, mac and cheese, spaghetti. Pretty much just that over and over. Lots of cereal for dinner nights. But the one meal my mom would make was tuna casserole. Only ever once a year, but it was an occasion when she would. She was always excited. I was pretty exhausted from work, so I went straight to my room to throw on some comfy clothes. I only managed to get sweatpants on and just laid back on my bed for a minute till my mom started yelling at me excitedly to come get some dinner. It was going to get cold. She wanted me to have it hot. So I pulled myself up out of bed and walked from my room to the kitchen. Now, while walking from my room to the kitchen, I had a view of the window in the kitchen, which leads out to our neighbor's house. And I saw an orange glow that looked weird. It was around 6:30 at night, again, middle of December, so it was pretty dark. My neighbor's house was known as Fort Knox, sort of, to people in the area. It was an older area in the city, so most people had lived there for a long time, this guy included. We'd only been there a year or two, but we knew he was pretty reclusive. His back area was backyard area was closed off with like a 10-foot high fence and a gate with a big chain on it. And we lived on a hill, so each side had an 8 or so foot like drop or jump. So I guess he was protected there. And then his front had like a regular fence all around it, again with a gate and a lock on it. And I sort of squinted at the window, and my mom's boyfriend noticed and took a look out the window. He was beside it, and he just said, "There's a fire." So he and I ran out the back door, the closest exit for us to get a look, and sure enough, we could see, like, from the eave of his place, we could see flames licking out, a lot of smoke. We know it's pretty serious, so I run inside and tell my mom to call 911, and I run into my room, throw a shirt on, and go at the front door. The main worries is, like, what if he's in there? Like, he's an elderly man. This could be a really bad situation for him. Whenever I've seen him, he hasn't been the fleetest of foot. So I run around to the front gate of his place, and I hadn't realized before that he had locks. Like, I'd never tried to get in, so I'd have thought it was just a gate. And I could see across the front lawn that the front window was like full of smoke. There was so much adrenaline going through me. I was just like vibrating. It was I was in such a panic. There was no real thinking going on, just reacting. So I hopped over the fence and ran up to his house, and I was banging on the side paneling and trying to bang on the window. And I remember yelling like, "Hey man, you got to get up. You got to get out." Just sort of repeating that, banging on the side of the house. No, there was no response or anything. My mom was yelling from our place that he's probably not there and to come back over. Fire trucks were on their way and all that. But for some reason, I thought he was in there. Like, where else would he be? Felt like he was always home. His front porch was like enclosed. It had a screen door. I went for that, but of course it was locked too. But screen doors are pretty flimsy, so I was able to like kick that open. I got to his front door, but now this little space was like pretty smoky. It's a little harder to breathe, but I like kept picturing him in there, laying somewhere barely conscious with smokes and flame around him. The door was locked, and I remember feeling the handle or thinking the handle was warm, but that could have just been the craziness of the moment. I don't really remember. And I just kept screaming at the house for him to like get up and get out. And so I started like kicking at his front door. And the first few kicks did nothing. At this point, there was like sort of coughing from the smoke, but a couple more kicks, the door opened up, but it was pushed back like immediately, which was weird, but like trying to process anything in the moment just wasn't going to happen. Everything was such a blur. I like kicked again, and again it opened up like 3 inches and was pushed close again. I figured it was like pressure from the fire inside. That's what I assume. Tried to push like my body into the door, but there was pressure. That pressure was pushing, and then as soon as obviously the door opens up a bit, all the smoke would come billowing out, and it was too much. So I tried to kick again, hoping it would swing like wide open, but it didn't. And at this point, the fire truck showed up, and firefighters were jumping out. So I like ran out and told them what I had experienced and didn't know if he was in there and this and that, and they just told me to get back and they would handle it, obviously. They focused first on getting the fire contained. They were hitting the eave beside our kitchen with the hose, and I was just standing there back on our front lawn watching, and it was so surreal. And there was a slight rain, but mixed in it was like this falling ash. There was a orange glow in the night from the flames that could be seen, but also all the emergency vehicle lights on. I have no idea how much time passed. It felt like eternities in the moment, but yeah, I couldn't tell if it was like 5 minutes or 5 hours. They finally got things sort of under control, and firefighters had entered the house, and we were hoping, obviously, that they would come out empty with nobody else. And the first 2 did, but then 2 more were right behind them, and they were carrying Stan, my neighbor, out. And he was unconscious. They put him down on the front lawn and started doing CPR, and my mom burst into tears and was trying to get us to go inside, pulling on my arm, but I had to watch. Like, I had to see if he was going to make it or not. She pulled on me hard, and I turned around and sort of snapped at her. I remember saying, go inside if you don't want to see this. I took a second to look up at the sky again, and none of it felt real. This dream, it was so surreal. The snow like ash falling in the red smoky sky, so many images from that night are just burned in my head. They did CPR on him for a while, not looking like they're making any progress, and then they got him into an ambulance and took him to the hospital, which was luckily very close. Neighbors from the block had gathered around the house. I was in tears, pretty inconsolable. Wish that I'd known he was in there 100%. Maybe I could have tried more or pushed more, or maybe I wouldn't have stepped away when the fire truck showed up, just keep going. And everyone was obviously letting me know there's nothing I could have done, thanking me for trying, blah, blah, blah. But I felt bad. The police had set up a mobile office sort of thing in a van outside our house to assess everything and do their investigation. And they had to take statements from us. I remember I went in there and sort of gave my statement on what I saw and what happened. And it was during that process, a couple hours after the event, that they told me that he died. And I broke down again. And the thing I never found out, but the image that's burned in my mind that plays over and is playing over right now whenever I think about this is, what if it was his body that was leaning against the door? What if he had almost made it out? What if I was just kicking at him and he was just being pushed around, barely alive, feeling like help was there? I had nightmares about burning buildings for a while and would hear random sirens in my dreams. Turns out he had a freezer in his basement and that its wiring caught fire, and he was on the main floor when the fire had grown pretty big in the basement and the house started to fill with smoke quicker than he was able to react to. I still don't know where they grabbed his body from, and that's the hardest thing for me when I think about it. And I don't know how to let that go. His family invited me to his funeral. It was really nice. He was such a sweet guy. Wish I'd known him. He went line dancing every week. They had lots of videos of him dancing. Super cute guy. A lot of nieces and nephews that he loved. And obviously that was a really down Christmas. It was hard to think about, or hard not to think about, what his family was going through during that time. Yeah, I don't know. I thought I moved on from it years ago, and I'm sure a lot of me has, but I was thinking about that a lot this December. And I guess that means I'm still carrying part of that night forward with me. I hope he's dancing somewhere right now. Man, I just edited episode 9 of the podcast before this night, and I said on there that the next episode was going to be happy. I guess I lied. But no, I want to share that, I guess, somewhere. Many other people have had much worse experiences and stories. His entire family has more to be sad about than me. That was, it's just something I was thinking about. And honestly, my Christmas this year was wonderful. I wasn't sure how I wanted to spend it. I know I wanted it to be pretty quiet, pretty chill. That's how I like my Christmases. I can see that changing when I have a family, But as for right now, I really like a slow, quiet, don't do much Christmas. And I got that this year. Christmas Eve was nice. Went and looked at some Christmas lights. Christmas lights are pretty. They're nice. Did it with a very nice person. Yeah, then Christmas morning was great. Lovely. Nothing, just chill. Exactly what I wanted. I didn't even know that I wanted it until probably that point. That was great. And then spent the day with my father, and we just hung out, really. Played board games, played cards, made dinner, had a couple drinks. It was great. And then New Year's, which is always a crazy time. My birthday's January 1st, so, it's a strange birthday for sure. New Year's is always a super special day for me because my birthday's attached to it. I assume it's a super special day for everybody, though. It's New Year's. Everybody parties on New Year's. It must be a little more special for me, though, with the birthday, right? Or maybe not. Maybe it's the same. Maybe I'm just gypped out of feeling special or feeling that special day somewhere else on the calendar. Nah, it's extra special. Fuck y'all. Growing up, New Year's was always something too. Like, my mom always had people over as early as I can remember. Like, my earliest memories, 2-3 years old. We had people over for New Year's. There's a nice party, people having fun. I'd wake up in the morning to people I don't know passed out on the couch and on the floor, and it was always a big event. I had written down in a notepad on the days leading up to New Year's, quote, "The past 2 New Years have been bad. I feel like this year will be a big shift back in the right direction." End quote. That was a very incorrect quote. New Year's Eve was kinda shitty. But that's okay. 'Cause all's well that ends well. And it ended fine. New Year's Day was good. The second was good. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. All been good. No bad days since. So 2020, here we come. Trying to think of what I want of 2020. Now that we're here, page is flipped. How do we tackle a new decade? And a lot of people are all like, "Oh, new decade, whatever, it's just another year." It's like, sure, it is. But also, if you're somebody that wants to make a change, a new month is always a great time. It's something you can look to as a point to make a change. And a new year, again, doesn't have to be for everybody, but it's a great point if you want to make a change or if you want to set goals or start keeping track of something. A new year is a great time, and a year like 2020 or any new decade is, again, a great time to take stake and see what you can do. I think I really need to travel. I actually need to. It's not even that I want to. I don't know if I want to, but I think I need to. I plan to find a way to do some of that this year. And I mean like travel. Experience something new, something different. Living in Vancouver and having only been to places in cities like Edmonton, Toronto, Seattle, California when I was like 10, other Northwest states. The most different culture or whatever I've experienced is small town Montana, which was something, but I need to leave the continent, you know? Gonna make a shirt that just says, I need to get uncomfortable. Which is hilarious to me because over the past couple of years, and when I was at like my darkest, all I wanted was comfort. I wanted to feel comfortable. I wanted to be able to relax. Like that was, I can't tell you how many times I said that to people. And now that I'm starting to come out of that and I'm feeling much better, excited, I'm craving new experiences and situations where I'm uncomfortable and nervous. It's like, you just got out of there, you doofus. I guess it's because these would be intentional and just new instead of just regular old anxiety eating my feelings during the day. Just a PSA, if you smoke cigarettes, you should quit. Or at least cut back as much as you can. Not even for you, but for the people that care about you. But I mean, for you too. Both my parents smoke cigarettes. I hate it. I've never even puffed on one and never will because I know I'd probably get addicted, but man, come on, Mom, Pa. Quit smoking for me. That's all I ask. How'd you like it if I started smoking? Just puffing away, killing myself slowly. Killing me softly with these puffs. My dad's all like, oh, boo-hoo, they smoke in Europe and they don't get cancer as much. It's not from the cigarettes, it's from the diet. Yeah, well, North Americans have horrific diets, but grow up. Cigarettes are not good for you. They've been proven to give you an accelerated chance of cancer, so give it up, bud. So terrible. It's a terrible excuse. I got a leg cramp during the week, and I hadn't had one in years, probably. And I think I realized that leg cramps are probably what pregnancy feels like. Just in the leg. I used to get them like somewhat frequently, just more frequently than probably someone should. But I hadn't had them in a while, and then yeah, lying in bed in the morning, just like on my phone, stretched funny, I guess, and you can feel it right away. It starts, and you're like, oh fuck, is this really gonna happen? And then it starts building, and you're like trying not to tense it up at all, but you know it's coming, and you've got 5 seconds to, I don't know, your life flashes before your eyes, and then bam, it hits, and you're in labor. You're just like, push. Yeah, I was yelling, rolled over onto my side and just audibly yelling. And then you're sore for 2 days. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I could give birth. It'd be painful, but it's nothing I haven't felt. I mentioned that my New Year's was not the greatest, and I thought up a quote connected to it, and that is that you don't have the obligation to make anyone's life better, but you sure as hell shouldn't be making anyone's life worse. I think that's enough for everybody to follow. You don't have to go out of your way to do something good for anybody. You can just live your life. But if you're doing things that are making someone's life worse, then you've probably got to check yourself. And maybe you weren't doing it intentionally. Maybe you didn't know the situation or whatever. Whatever situation it may be. Just don't make anybody's life worse. That's what I try to do. But I also want to try to make people's lives better if possible. The recommendation this episode, got a couple. We're going to go. The recommendation for this episode will be an activity that you maybe haven't done in a while. So stay tuned for that. Man, Australia is just burning away. Just depressing. It's weird. I get a lot of listeners from Australia, which I appreciate. Shout out Australia. Like just this week, I had a listen from Melbourne. And it's like, shouldn't you be focusing on finding water or something? But I appreciate all of you down under. But yeah, 2020 is going to be a trip. It really seems like everything is speeding up to some irreversible point. And I feel like all generations probably feel like something huge in world, society, history changing is going to happen in their lifetime. And there are big generational moments that happen frequently. But I think what we're ramping up to is much bigger. Like the world is going to be unrecognizable and life is going to be so different day to day within the next 50 years. With the rate at which technology is growing, even if everything else stayed the same in the world, it's going to be insane the types of things that are going to be normal with technological advancements over the next even just 20 years. Look at 20 years ago and how it's growing exponentially. But then look at climate change and the fires and record-setting temperatures that are happening year after year all over the world. And let's, even for the sake of it, say it's not caused by humans. I think that obviously it is, but really that doesn't matter. What matters is that we have proof that the planet is warming for whatever reasons, whether it's just a cycle the planet would normally go through or not. And we need to figure something out soon. Fuck balloons, you know? And then just look at society. Protests in France have been going on for over a year now. That's barely getting talked about, which is crazy. When you look at protests in Hong Kong that have been going on for half a year or so, and that's getting a lot of coverage. But there's a growing disconnect between government and the general population in a lot of places in the world. You're seeing lots going on in South America, and obviously the Middle East hasn't figured out a lot of their governments and revolutions that have gone on, and just feels like something has got to give, for better or for worse. Speaking of technology, Google sent me a free Google Play Mini, which, I mean, what's $70 to them when they're now listening to everything I say and expanding their profile on me? But I'm aware of that. And you know, I don't think I care. My phone listens to a lot as is. I think it's at a point where the convenience outweighs the loss of privacy. And I don't talk about my revolution at home anyway, and all revolutionary meetings that we have are underground with no electronics, so I'm not worried about that being discovered. But yeah, go ahead and listen to the inane conversations I have with my cat, or record me singing. Give me better ads, whatever. And also, hey Google, who am I?
Your name is the tea-drinking, cat-loving, philosophy-driven, delicious piece of meat.
It's not even been a week and it knows me so well. So that's kind of fun. With all that in mind, I'm not down for facial recognition stuff. Never set that up on any of my phones. I don't do Snapchat, but when I did, and those filters were a thing, I was not trying to use those. It's weird that that's where I draw the line. I give my phone my fingerprints, but not my face. That's just for me. Me and my friends. I've really got to pee. I only record for like 45 minutes usually. So, should be able to hold my bladder, but that's just me dealing with life. I had a conversation with a wonderful friend of mine who is in Scotland. He got deported for not doing anything, for just not getting his shit in line and figuring out how to stay. But through the conversation, I realized that it's good to focus on the negatives in life at times. I don't gotta tell myself that, fucking, obviously. The things that need to improve, the things that can get better. But those aren't always going to be a quick or easy fix. Those things can drag on, whether it's at work or in a relationship or just in your life. There are going to be things that aren't perfect or are bad and need to change. But maybe that change can't happen for a while, or you don't know yet or aren't ready to make that change. And that's okay. It's good to think about those things. It's good to be aware of them and want to change them. But with all that being said, you need to leave time to think about the positives, the things that are already changing, the exciting things that are coming or have happened, again, at work, in relationships, in life. There are good things that have or are about to happen. But if you get caught up just looking at the negatives and the things that need to change or the things that are making you feel down, you're just going to end up in a ball of negativity. And I understand that that isn't easy, especially if you're someone who has troubles looking at things glass half full or struggle with your happiness. This may be a reason why. Try to find a time where you're going to sit down and write out some good things that are happening or going on or going to happen or whatever. Even if it's as simple as like I showered today or I did the laundry or tidied the house. Make sure you acknowledge the little victories. They're paramount to ever achieving bigger victories. Walk before you run. And then looking at these things will also open your eyes to bigger things that are going on, that are positive, that maybe you hadn't realized before. And it's all about training your brain to see things in a different light and not dwelling on the negatives, I guess. I really have just been working on, really without realizing it, becoming as stoic as possible. I think it's probably time for me to dive into some stoicism reads and maybe fine-tune a little better, or figure out actual theories on how to be stoic. But over the past year and a bit, I've had a real focus on what am I going to let bother me? Is the missed bus something to be upset about or something to ruin my day? Obviously not. What does that matter? It may suck, it may have repercussions as far as being late for something, but at the end of the day, what are you going to do? Scream until timer whines and you make it? I use bus analogies a lot. And I don't even really ever take the bus. I hope some of you do, or at least that we all have at a time for these to hit the way I want. But what I'm saying is, I look at every situation like that, and usually instead of being upset, I can just laugh. I think that's something a lot of people should practice. Not letting little things bother you to start, and then eventually just not letting anything really bother you. Because what can you do about them? You're a manager at work and someone calls in sick last minute or no shows or fucks up. Do your job. Let them know they made a mistake. Explain that it shouldn't happen again. Provide some direction as to a better way to go about things and then move on. Don't get angry or upset for the rest of the day, even if you've now got to work 16 hours. That's the position you're in. That's your life. Deal with it. You can get angry, stop talking, stop smiling and laughing and having fun and just shut off. Be that ball of negativity to those around you. Affect and let your problems ruin other people's times, or laugh about it. Funny life, This is a situation you're putting me in, eh? Oh well. It's not going to magically change by being pissy about it. But you know what? Having a good attitude about it will magically change it. And all of a sudden it doesn't matter because you're not letting it manifest with your bad thoughts. And it sounds so simple, and really it is. The part that's difficult is training yourself to be able to brush things off. Your least favorite person shows up to the bar you're at. Whatever. Laugh about it. It's kind of funny, don't you think? Life having some fun with you. Go on with your night. That's so much better than the alternative of getting upset and angry and having your night ruined and ruining other people's life. Don't allow for things out of your control to affect your mood in your life. It's not worth it. You unknowingly do it with things all day, every day. There's depressing and aggravating shit going on all over the world 24/7 and you don't let it get you down. Probably because it's not happening to you, but now do it with the random things that are happening to you, because a lot of them aren't personal, just like the things that aren't affecting you. Make sure you tell someone about the podcast. That's the biggest support you can give me aside from aside from your beautiful ears listening in. But sharing it with others would be appreciated. If you enjoy it, of course. If you listen to it and aren't liking it, then whatever, don't share it. Say it's garbage. Be honest to people, don't lie. I think that I unfortunately put maybe too much into this at the start. I know maybe it may not seem like it, but I really did jump right in. I was so excited. Like I had wanted to do it for so long, and I was loving finally creating something. I remember the rush and the nerves of finally putting it and myself out there. My stomach was in knots the night I launched it. I remember I put it up, sent my 2 closest friends a message like, "Fuck boys, I just went live." And then I went straight to bed 3 hours earlier than I usually would because I was so nervous. And then even the next morning, I just got straight to my day. Went to work, didn't check anything out on my phone until pretty much almost a full day after releasing it. And the feedback was great. Nicer and better than I thought it would be, to be honest, which was good reinforcement. But then that gave me expectations and something that I felt I had to upkeep. I couldn't stand the thought of regressing or getting worse. And it's tough when that's not even really a quantifiable thing. Everyone is going to have differing opinions on what's good when it comes to a podcast. And some episodes and some topics will hit for some people and for some it won't. Even just within one episode. Let alone the whole thing. And I started to fixate on that, I think, and was worrying that episodes weren't good enough or weren't going to be good enough. And lately, and since taking this time off, I've just beat myself up about it. Like, how do I come back after all this time and not have something special? How do I just come back normal? And probably worse, because I'm out of the rhythm I was in before. It started to become a stressor for me. And that's fine. That's fair. That's allowed. It's because I care about it and about anyone that is listening and their thoughts. And I just want to come across as good as possible for the listeners. But I need to shut those thoughts down and just fucking do it, or it's never going to get done. It's not like it wasn't on my mind over the past 5 weeks, however long it's been. I have this problem in all aspects of my life. I think I worry so much about things being perfect that I never actually follow through and get things done because it's never going to reach the lofty standards I set from the start. Like that's what took me so long to finally even start a podcast is I had to get over the fact that I just needed to do it. Those standards, those honestly probably unrealistic standards. I like to daydream a lot and think out these long, elaborate scenarios where this happens and then this, and then the next thing you know, it's years later and my life is this fairy tale that I've gone through. Because a friend mentioned that I say this and that a lot, instead of actually explaining thoughts out a little bit more, I guess I should give an example, which I guess would be... And before I get into it, it's not even that I really believe this will happen. Like, it's just fun going through scenarios and thinking about what it would be like. Dream about the possibilities. I'm sure most people, I'm sure everybody does it. It's daydream, it's a thing. But like with the podcast, I imagine, I guess firstly that I get back to my fucking routine and putting it out, and I'm putting episodes out consistently. One day maybe there's a big spike because some group of friends or some person with some sort of a circle hears it and recommends it, and now it's got its own organic sort of growth instead of me just trying to throw it at people. And I keep plugging away, getting more interaction, and it's growing, and then I can start making shirts and mugs and shit that people can have and use in life, and people are purchasing them, and all of a sudden maybe I can make some pocket change or money to pay for at least the hours that I put into it, and I keep working and I get a big local guest and it grows more, and then a year down the line I've got some ads and generating enough revenue to work a little less and podcast a little more and connect with people more and do more of what I want and what listeners want. And then in another year, it's at a point where I can quit my job and try to make this a full-time thing and put my all into it. And eventually I'm doing a live tour, definitely calling it Dylan with Live. And I'm meeting the people that have been helping me out just by hearing my thoughts and emotions, and hopefully the people that I've been able to help, and I finally start to feel fulfilled, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be. I just want to help people. I want to make people feel better. And I've gone through a lot of tough times and traumas, and I've seen all sorts of people in my life go through hard times, times that broke them. You know, my mom and stepdad got divorced when I was 9 or 10, and I remember one night, instead of waking up to the screaming fights that they would have in the middle of the night, I woke up to crying. I went out into the living room to see my mom collapsed on the floor in a ball of tears, and at the time I didn't understand why, really, obviously, but I understood the pain. I felt that. That's my mom. It's my rock. And it was so disheartening to not be able to help, because that's all I wanted to do in the moment, was make her feel better. And I've seen friends lose parents at a young age, and seen a random guy have a heart attack and die in the street, and still see Stan's lifeless body on the front lawn, and it's hard to see people hurt. I think of my background, my indigenous background, and how lucky I am to have the life that I've had. Nothing special, just sort of getting by, but still being a couple generations removed from residential schools and pain and suffering that brought for multiple generations. And while I take great pride in my native background, I can't help but feel slightly disconnected from it, never having grown up or lived on the res, or really having gone through it the way that most have, and not knowing much of my family and the struggles that they went through. My dad was adopted, and not knowing either of my grandfathers, and it's like, I want to help heal my people. I'd love to be a figurehead or a branch to extend and bring that plight to the light. Anyone dealing with depression and anxiety and other mental illnesses, I've been there. It's the worst. It's the absolute worst. But you're not alone. As much as you feel you are, you really aren't. And that's what it does to you. It breaks you down, and it tricks you into thinking that there is no hope, and that it will not get better, that life is not worth it, and you should end it, and those are your genuine feelings. That's what it does. But your feelings aren't truth. It can all change so fast. You have to keep pushing through somehow. I almost pulled the plug 2 years ago at Christmas, and even just thinking back to that time right now gets me emotional, because I was so broken. I really thought I was done. I was sure there was no coming back. It felt so hopeless, but I'm still here, and I'm in a much better place than that time. And that time had been building up for years. A lot of people get to that breaking point and they do end it. But ending it doesn't fix anything. Really doesn't. Just stops you from ever being able to get back on track. doesn't put an end to the suffering. It ends in suffering. All I'm trying to say is I want to help people feel better. If just for 30 minutes a week, or if I can do more, I want to be someone or something that makes people smile. I was able to find through podcasts people that made me smile, made me feel good, made me feel understood and not alone. And I want to be able to provide that, even if it only ever reaches one person that way. That would be enough for me. So, yeah. I think that's probably why I say this and that a lot, instead of diving into exactly what I mean, because it's just a long ramble of a bunch of shit. That whole thing was just explaining my daydreaming about what I want the podcast to be, possibly. And expectations or something. So, what I'm saying is I have such lofty desires for what this podcast can be. And having gone to the absolute ends of what it and I can achieve in my mind, and then I come back to Earth and it's like, oh yeah, episodes are currently only getting like 40 to 50 downloads on average, and I'm sure I know a high percentage of those people, and how the hell am I going to make an impact with the next episode? So I stress about it and worry it's not good enough and choose not to do it and fall out of my routine and fucking get down about that, and then start doing destructive things like have a night out drinking instead, because it's easier than going home and facing what I've put off for a month already, and then it's like, surprise, I don't feel good about myself anymore. Weird. Wonder why. Idiot. Anyways, I'm back. I may stray away from the weekly uploads and do it bi-weekly, just because I do work full-time and that's getting stressful. I've also been seeing an amazing lady of late. Belle is upset I haven't been spending enough quality time with her. But with the holiday craziness over, it's time to settle back into a routine. So, rip. See you on the flip. Get a grip. Go on a trip. Shoot from the hip. Oh, I didn't even do the recommendation yet. Recommendation is an activity, and that activity is swinging. And I'm not talking about you and your wife or your husband going and finding another wife and husband, because I've yet to do that, so I cannot recommend that. I'm also very one person for one person, so that's not the recommendation. The recommendation is the activity of getting on a swing set and swinging away. Because let me tell you, it's good shit. I loved swings as a kid. Don't think I've gone a year without swinging. And I heard recently that a friend hadn't been on a swing in like 9 years. And I thought, that is insane. I almost punched him just so that he could feel a swing. But yeah, recommendation, go on a swing. Smile. Jump in a lake. Did a polar bear swim. Jumped in the ocean on January 1st. At like 6:30 at night in the dark, in the rain, after it had been sunny all day, because hangovers are a thing. But yep, that's it. This felt like a long one. I could probably keep going too, but feels like Feels like a good place to shut her down.
You can make your dreams
Love you all.
true. You can find bliss.
Share it.
Just remember it adds, and remember it will flow back to
Eating carrot.